So we're going on to Soylent Green.
One of the more famous films we're covering tonight, I think. The world is burning. A perpetual summer caused by the greenhouse effect, in which the coldness of winter is but a distant memory, perhaps even a myth. The oceans are dying, food is scarce, the human population enormous. 40 million people live in New York City, which is so expanded in size that it now borders Philadelphia. Jobs are there, living space seemingly more so. But there are still rich white guys exploiting the rest, so it's all good. One of these rich white guys is murdered, though it's made to look like a burglary gone wrong. Assigned to investigate is Charlton Heston's detective Frank Thorne. Thorne is a corrupt police officer, a thug, a thief, who demeans women, particularly the live-in prostitutes at the dead guy's apartment building, using the particularly unpleasant epithet that such women are referred to by, furniture. He also takes sexual advantage of these women, though, naturally, she falls for him, because what's not to love? This man is the hero. As an aside, I don't know if this is a comment in the world. This is set in New York, which had a notoriously corrupt police force in the 1970s. Or maybe we're once again in creepy bastard territory? When he's not being a thoroughly unpleasant person, though, Thorne is, at least notionally, a detective. And with the help of his book, Edward G. Robinson's Saul Roth, he attempts to find out why one of the directors of the Soylent Corporation was bumped off, how a bodyguard can afford $150 a jar strawberry jam, and why people are putting pressure on his boss to stop him. Thorne is eventually led to a government suicide centre and learns the truth about the connection between these, the city recycling facilities, and the miracle, highly nutritious foodstuff Soylent Green. The last time I watched this, I recall enjoying it a great deal more. This time, frankly, it was a struggle to watch. I've never been a great fan of Charlton Heston, and I find it all too easy to believe him in this as this sleazy criminal. Even if that is in fact good acting, and as far as that goes, he's fine. It's hard to be invested in such an unpleasant person, even if he's trying to bring to light something quite so shocking. In the end, Soylent Green's famous conceit is far more enduring and interesting than the film itself, which largely seeks to squander it, being far more interested as it is in chases and murders and misogyny. There's barely a hint in the first half of the film about what's going on, and when Saul discovers the truth, he immediately decides to get himself euthanized, leaving no note for anyone, and any delay to Thorne, and the truth would have died with him. So, well done, that a fine upstanding citizen. It's easy to imagine a reframing of this film producing a vastly superior product, because the idea of trying to keep the truth of a dying world from the population, and a drastic, stomach-turning and desperate solution to the food problem being stumbled upon and then investigated is compelling. Sadly, Richard Fleischer's film doesn't seem all that interested in it. Soylent Green is disappointing.
It's a few tweaks away from being the plot of Interstellar, isn't it? I'd seen this a while back. I recall thinking it was alright then. I watched it through this time. I thought it was alright. Not really changed my opinion all that much. Yes, the kind of inherent misogyny it's kind of... It doesn't get away with it, but it is sort of woven into its actual world. So there's an in-universe sort of sensible explanation for it. It's not particularly pleasant, but then I suppose it never is. And I suppose come back to some sort of analysis of exactly what prostitution entails in a world where you're more interested in space than money for a lot of things. There's lots of interesting little world building-y bits thrown in here that came from the book, like things like space being at such a premium, and that does lead to some really quite interesting shots, like I'm trying to get down the stairs and it's full of bodies and all that kind of stuff. And there's bits here and there that I really like. There's like a couple of scenes, maybe like 4 or 5 out I think are really great scenes, and the rest I think the linking bit's just sort of fine. And I found it enjoyable enough. It's hard to watch it these days, knowing the reveal at the end. it makes it sort of difficult to watch the rest of it without kind of wishing they would start skipping forward to the points where they actually get to understanding where the revelation is going to come from. There's a few little hints of it that kind of builds up. Like I like the kind of completely shell-shocked reaction of the priest that the rich guy's told and things like that.
Yeah, but that's one of the only bits though. It's like
there's nowhere near enough of it.
Yeah, it's like because you get to the point where you can go another 20 minutes of the film and it's never mentioned again. You kind of forget that's happened.
Yes. So by no means perfect. Given the way worlds are going, it's not all. It's a dystopia, but it seems like it might actually be happening. So it's got that bit of prophecy for it. Doesn't seem to have got much better in the intervening decades, but it's the least complex, I think, of all of these films that we've spoken about. It probably has the least amount to say, which makes it one of the least interesting films. But even so, I liked it well enough. It's all right, but I can't be all that excited about it.
This, probably more than anything else we're covering tonight, is a B movie.
Yes.
And carries a lot of the trappings that often come with that. And as I said, I really did enjoy it more the first time I watched it. This time, I was much more sensitive to, well, how sleazy a character the supposed hero is.
Yeah.
And there's no beating about the bush from the first time he appears, more or less. Oh no, not quite the first time. The first time you see him in a wee bit of relationship with Saul Roth, because they're having to live together in a tiny apartment because there's nowhere else to live. But then he goes to the murder scene and immediately just starts ripping everything off. Steals everything he can get his hands on, is horrible to people. You got all good corrupt police officers. Yay, they're always fun. But yes, I was saying that bit of a struggle, but I think perhaps, I don't know, because the Tarkovsky stuff is sort of kind of at a higher level, I think, but this is one of the more interesting ideas, and it doesn't feel like it has anything interesting with it. Unlike
most of the other films, this has interesting ideas, but only hints at them as a way to embellish a fairly standard investigative thriller, whereas the other films, certainly the Tarkovsky stuff, is purely interested in those higher ideas and is going after them full-throated, and that makes it that makes Soylent Green perhaps a bit easier to digest. It's giving you a fairly standard beaten potatoes with a little bit of world-building flavouring spiced on it, whereas a lot of the other ones are just really, it's all about the world and the higher concepts of it, and that's perhaps, it's certainly more difficult to digest than the easier meal that Soylent Green presents.
I think that's a stomach churning pun, if ever there was, Scott. Yeah, well, it's because maybe the invasion of the Body Snatchers is a bit different, but I think perhaps apart from that, this is one with the central idea that most people like to be aware of. It's really kind of caught on, I mean, to the point where there are like actual companies called Soylent.
Yes.
Somehow thinking that's a good idea, and somehow those companies work. I don't understand that, but Silicon Valley's a weird place, and it's all came out of there. I'm pretty sure they're from Silicon. They have that feel about them, Soylent, don't they?
Yes.
Anyway, so it's got this central idea, the whole Soylent Greenish people thing, that seems to really caught on. It really stayed in sort of the public consciousness and pop culture, and it's why, in particular, I put this film in, because like that central idea had stayed. Except, I'm watching it, I'd forgotten quite how much it isn't the central idea.
Yes.
It's an afterthought almost. And again, it's science fiction would absolutely be the place to do this. And this is the sort of science fiction that's not hugely far-fetched.
Yeah.
It was set, it's a 1973 film, set in 1999. Again, you just go a wee bit further forward, and it doesn't feel that far-fetched, given the constant talk of crisis of global warming and food production and all those things.
Yeah.
That nothing is happening quite so bad as this yet, but it's a constant and fairly reasonable fear.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. You've got problems of the overcrowding and the heat and the lack of water, and then you've got all these people who are dying. So how do you dispose of the bodies? Plus, there's no food. The oceans are dying. So all these things could be feasibly happening soon. So, when you could approach it in a couple of different ways. You could approach it like that it's just like an evil corporation doing this to make money, or that it's someone's desperate attempt to keep the population of the world fed. There's so many ways to approach this idea to to explore the ethics of it, which immediately think, well, no, it's disgusting, it's cannibalism, that's not on. Even worse when it's like unwitting, but at the same time it's like, yeah, but everybody will die if we don't do this because the food supply is that short. There's the potential there to bring up some really interesting ideas and ethical ideas and things like that nobody's ever going to want to do that.
Yeah.
I doubt it would ever come to that, but that's just interesting speculation. And the film's like, yeah, well, we'll do that later. We'll have one of our characters so bothered by it that he's like, I'll not even bother telling anyone what I found out. I'll just die now. Okay, thanks. Fine moral citizen you are, but mostly it's just want to see Charlton Heston being creepy with some women for a while. Oof, those scenes are turning my stomach, but more so than the Soylent Green thing, actually. Yeah, so what I'm saying on this viewing, I mean, it's probably worth watching, again, because of the impact that the whole Soylent Green idea had, that it's still known now. In this viewing, I'm just frustrated by the lack of capturing the opportunity to do something interesting.
Yeah.